You wake up to an unfamiliar chill creeping through your bones. The damp air hits you before your eyes even open. It's not the warmth of your bed, it's the cold bite of stone against your skin. The sharp scent of sweat, blood, and the faint tang of iron fills your nostrils. You force your eyes open. A dull light seeps through the cracks in the wooden walls, but it's not enough to give you comfort. It's just enough to remind you that you're here, not where you imagined you'd be. Not where you wanted to be. The echoes of distant screams crawl under your skin. Your heart races. This is real. No more dreaming. No more pretending you could wake up and this would all be over. You sit up, every muscle protesting, as if the night had worked its own brutal magic on you. The pain hits first, but it's not the worst of it. The worst is knowing that you're still alive. Your body tells you to stay down. Your mind tells you to move, to fight, to survive. The memory of last night's horrors lingers, but the cold reality of this place settles in deeper. No blankets, no warmth. Just the damp, musty air that fills your lungs like it wants to crush you. The iron taste of fear mixes with the metal of the chains that bind you. The floor beneath you is hard, unforgiving, like the reality of the life you're stuck in. You hear them again, voices echoing in the dark corners of your cell. Those who have lived through this longer than you, who've already learned to embrace the pain, the blood, the fight. And you're still new, still fragile, still unsure. As you push yourself off the floor, you take a deep breath, the sound heavy in the silence. You know what comes next. You know what's expected of you, and the worst part? You still don't know if you're strong enough to make it. You stand up, your legs wobbling as your hands grip the cold stone wall to steady yourself. The room around you smells of sweat, blood, and fear. Not the kind of fear that fades after a few deep breaths. This is the kind of fear that sticks to your skin, the kind that lives inside your chest, making it hard to breathe. You blink and try to focus, but the reality is starting to set in, heavy like a weight pressing down on your shoulders. The door creaks open and a guard steps in. He doesn't say a word, just waves you forward, his eyes cold like the metal of his armor. His hand rests on the hilt of his sword, and for a moment you wonder if it's meant to be a reminder or a threat. The silence between you two is thick, but you don't dare speak. You can feel the stares of others in the shadows, other gladiators, their eyes filled with judgment, anger, or maybe even amusement. It doesn't matter. You've just become another nameless, faceless slave, meant for one thing and one thing only: to fight, to die, to entertain. As you walk through the narrow corridors, the sounds from outside grow louder, the clashing of swords, the roar of the crowd, the chants that seem to rise and fall like waves. It's impossible to tell if it's the noise of the living or the screams of the dead echoing in the distance. You're about to find out. The door opens and you're pushed forward into the bright, harsh sunlight. The arena stretches before you like a monstrous beast, its stone walls towering above you, filled with the roar of thousands. You see the other gladiators, each one just as broken as you. Some wear their pain with pride, others hide it behind hardened faces. There are no heroes here, only survivors, and not all of them will survive today. You catch a glimpse of the audience in the stands. They are high-born, noble, laughing and eating like this is nothing more than a game. It's a spectacle to them, a form of entertainment. To you, it's a fight for your life. The crowd doesn't care if you live or die. To them, you're just another show, another performer in a deadly play they have no real stake in. You glance at the other gladiators once more, their eyes avoiding yours. Some seem eager to fight. Others, they're already defeated. You're no different. You've been reduced to nothing but a tool in the eyes of Rome. A slave, a gladiator. You're worth as much as the sand beneath your feet. The roar of the crowd swells. The sound is deafening, vibrating through your bones, a constant reminder of what's at stake. The doors on the opposite side of the arena begin to open, and you see the other side of the battlefield. The opposing team, bigger, stronger, ready to kill. You don't have a weapon, just a crude shield that's barely big enough to protect you. You feel your stomach tighten. The fear is back again, colder now, sharper. Your hand grips the shield harder, the metal cutting into your skin. But you're not sure if it's the shield that's cutting or your own fear. The signal to start the fight is a simple wave of a flag, a command from the Emperor. And just like that, you're no longer a man. You're a weapon. A machine built for blood and death. You don't know the names of your enemies, but they're already trying to kill you. The first swing of a sword comes at you, too fast. You barely block it in time. Your heart is pounding, your body screaming, and every instinct tells you to run, but there's nowhere to run. The only way out is through. You raise your shield again, your arms trembling under the weight of it. Your opponent grins, the bloodlust in his eyes unmistakable. To him, this is just another day. To you, this is everything. The sound of clashing metal fills the air. It's the only sound you can focus on now. The world has narrowed to this one moment. You, your opponent, and the crowd. The fight isn't just physical. It's a battle for your very soul, for your humanity. You wake up, your body stiff from yesterday's fight. The floor is cold, rough, and sticky, the smell of sweat and blood hanging in the air like a thick fog. You try to stretch, but the pain is immediate. Your back cracks, your shoulders scream, and every part of you feels bruised, like you've been crushed under a boulder. This is what survival looks like. Not the glory, not the fame, just endless pain. It's a cold, unfeeling world, and you're nothing more than a pawn in the Emperor's game. Around you, the other gladiators move slowly, like broken machines, their eyes empty. No one speaks. No one makes eye contact. There's no need for words. You all know what's coming. You know the drill. Fight or die. They don't care who you are. To them, you're just another name in a long line of forgotten faces. The food here is, well, it's food. Just barely. A gray mush that smells like something that's been left out in the sun too long, served on a chipped plate. Some of the other gladiators eat it without question. You're not sure if it's hunger that makes them eat it, or if they've just forgotten what real food tastes like. You try to force it down, but the taste sticks to your tongue, making you gag. Doesn't matter though. You don't eat for pleasure. You eat to survive. You glance at the others. Some of them eat like they've got nothing left to live for. Others, like you, eat quickly, knowing full well that the fight comes soon and you'll need all the energy you can get. Outside the barracks you hear the sounds of training, the clanging of swords, the grunts of men pushing their bodies to the limit. It's not training, it's survival. They don't care if you're tired, if you're sick, or if your body is falling apart. They'll push you until you break, then they'll replace you. No one's irreplaceable here. You watch as some of the older gladiators limp by, their bodies covered in scars, each one a story of survival, but their eyes are vacant, as if they've seen so much death they can't even feel it anymore. You wonder if you'll end up like them, old before your time, just a shell of what you once were. You move to the training area where the trainers await. Their eyes are cold. They look at you like you're nothing more than a piece of meat to be sharpened, prepared for slaughter. You're not here to learn how to fight for honor or glory. You're here to fight because if you don't, you'll die. They don't care if you have potential. They don't care if you're scared. They don't care about you at all. All that matters is your ability to kill, and quickly. The training is brutal. Every swing of the sword feels heavier, like it's dragging you down deeper into the abyss. You start to feel like you're losing yourself in the motions, like your body's moving without your consent, and you start to wonder, what's the point? Are you really fighting for your life, or are you just going through the motions because it's the only thing you know how to do? The trainer shouts at you, and for a split second you forget where you are. You forget you're a gladiator. You forget you're just a slave to the crowd's whims. But then the trainer swings at you, and you're snapped back into reality. You block the strike, the sound of metal against metal ringing in your ears. For a moment, you feel something. Not fear, not anger, just numbness. And you realize that's all you're capable of now. Numbness. You've learned how to survive. You've learned how to endure the pain. But deep down, you know it's a losing game. You've seen the others. You've seen the ones who didn't make it. The ones who gave in to the pain, who broke under the pressure. And you wonder, how long until it's your turn? You stand in the shadow of the arena, the sounds of the crowd filtering through the thick walls like the distant growl of a beast. Your heart beats louder than the cheers. You can feel the sweat pooling on your skin, your palms slick with the reality of what's about to happen. The death you've been running from since the moment you were thrown into this pit is now waiting for you. Just beyond that door, it's not just a fight, it's survival. And in this moment, fear surges through you like a tidal wave, drowning every thought, every hope, every shred of defiance. But that's when it hits you, the fear. It's there, yes, but it's not the only thing. There's something else. Calm, cold, steady. It's a strange thing to feel at a time like this, but it's there, like the icy breath of inevitability. The fear of dying, the fear of never seeing the light again. It's suffocating. But in the pit of your stomach, you find something even stronger. The knowledge that, at this moment, you have a choice. You can either crumble beneath this fear, or let it fuel you. The sound of your breath becomes all you can hear. It steadies you. With every exhale, you're letting go of the panic, the terror, and with every inhale, you're preparing. The reality is brutal, but you know what's ahead. The sharp scent of blood fills your nose. The distant screams of men fighting, dying, filling your mind. But you stand still, holding on to that calm. You know this could be the last breath you take. But it doesn't matter, because in this moment you are still alive. And that alone is something worth holding on to. The fear is there, raw and real, but it's not going to control you. You breathe deeper. Each inhale a reminder that you are still here, that you are still in this game. The fight ahead, you know, will be like nothing you've faced before. But for now, in this space, you are just a man waiting for his destiny. It's terrifying, but it's real. And you know one thing above all else. You are ready to face it. Ready to face the blood, the steel, the crowd, the death. Not because you're not afraid, but because in a world like this, the only thing you can control is how you respond. So, you square your shoulders, take one last steady breath and walk forward. Death may be waiting, but for now, it's just a word. Just another part of this cold, unforgiving world. The sun is blinding, the roar of the crowd deafening, and your heart is pounding against your chest. This isn't some kind of training ground. This is the Colosseum, and it's not a game. It's real. You feel the weight of your armor, the tightness of your chest plate, the raw, itching skin where it rubs against your body. Your grip on the sword feels awkward, unfamiliar. You've never used one before, never held it with this kind of purpose. The noise from the stands presses in like a wave ready to drown you. The scent of sweat and blood mixes with the distant smell of burning wood and rotting flesh. You're here, standing at the edge of survival, surrounded by strangers who either want to use you or see you die. You try to breathe, but your lungs are tight, your throat dry. You don't know if it's the heat, the fear, or the tightness of your chest plate that's suffocating you, but you can't run. You look around, seeing only iron bars and grim faces. Every man around you seems a beast, ready to tear into you with the hunger of wolves. The floor beneath your boots feels uneven, slippery with sweat and blood from previous fights. You glance at your opponent, the man across from you, his eyes cold, calculating. He's seen this before, done this before. He looks ready for anything. You feel your pulse race, unsure of what to do. Your legs feel like lead, like they might buckle underneath you. Every inch of your body screams for escape, yet you're trapped. No way out but through. The gates open. The crowd roars. You raise your sword, your hands trembling. This is it. There's no turning back now. The moment feels like an eternity. Your breath comes in shallow gasps, your eyes fixed on the enemy before you. He's taller than you, his muscles rippling under the sweat-drenched fabric of his tunic. He grips his weapon with ease, as if it's an extension of his own body. You can barely hold on to yours. The sword feels heavy, foreign in your hands. You're not sure if you're supposed to stand still, wait, or charge. Your legs are shaky, but you force yourself to take a step. The ground beneath you is hard and unforgiving, your boots slipping slightly with each movement. The crowd's roar grows louder, vibrating through your chest, rattling your bones. Your opponent moves first, a swift, calculated step forward. He raises his sword high, and you instinctively raise yours to block. The metal of your swords clash, the sound of it like thunder in your ears. The force of the strike sends a shockwave through your arms, making your hands numb. He's strong. Too strong, and you feel yourself losing control, your feet slipping as you struggle to maintain your balance. He grins, a cruel, mocking smile. Another strike comes, faster this time, and you barely manage to deflect it. Sweat drips from your brow, stinging your eyes, but you can't afford to blink. You have to focus to survive. The heat of the sun beats down on you like a punishment, your body screaming for relief. But there's none. The sword feels heavier with every move, and your legs threaten to give out. A sharp pain cuts across your side. His sword grazes you, a thin line of blood trickling down. Panic rises in your chest. You're losing. You're already bleeding, and he hasn't even broken a sweat. But you can't stop now. You shift your grip, trying to regain some semblance of control. You lunge, your feet unsteady, but this time you strike first. The blade connects, a satisfying thud as it meets his side. His eyes widen for a moment, then a flash of anger crosses his face. You've made him mad. You've angered the beast, and now you have to deal with it. He charges at you, and the world around you narrows. His sword swings with deadly intent, but you're not just standing there anymore. You're moving, reacting. You sidestep his blow just in time, and for the briefest moment, you think you might just have a chance. But then you feel his fist slam into your chest, and everything goes dark for a second. The air is knocked from your lungs. You stumble back, dizzy, trying to find your footing. Your vision swims, but you can't give up now. You can't die here. Not like this. Your sword feels lighter somehow. Your body ached but determined. With one last surge of adrenaline, you swing with all the strength you can muster, connecting with his shoulder. He stumbles off balance, and you see it. An opening. You take it. You drive your blade forward, hitting him square in the chest. He gasps, the shock on his face as he crumbles to the ground. For a moment, it's silent. You stand over him, chest heaving, your heart pounding in your ears. The crowd roars, but you can barely hear them. All you hear is the ringing in your ears, the sound of your breath. You've survived. For now. Every muscle in your body aches. Every breath you take feels like it's pulling you further from the edge of consciousness. The taste of blood coats your mouth, mixing with the dirt and sweat. But you can't stop. You don't have a choice. Your vision blurs as the heat of the battle clouds your mind. The ground beneath you is slick with blood, his blood, your blood, mixing with the dust. A grim reminder of what happens when a man's will isn't strong enough. You're no longer sure how many minutes or hours have passed. Time moves differently here. It's the sound of metal clashing, the grunts of exertion, the sickening thud of bodies hitting the dirt. Your arms are leaden, your hands trembling, but you force them to move. Your sword feels like a lifeline, but it's getting heavier. The weight is unbearable now, as though it carries all the deaths in this arena. Each step feels like you're dragging yourself through a swamp, But your legs don't give out. Not yet. Not now. The enemy before you is relentless, a machine of brutality and strength, his every move calculated to crush you. He doesn't tire. He doesn't hesitate. He keeps coming, over and over. His sword an extension of his will, slashing, blocking, and attacking without mercy. You've already taken too many blows, each one more devastating than the last. A cut on your arm, another on your leg. Your vision starts to fade, but your body refuses to fall. Every inch of you screams for relief, but it never comes. You can feel the weight of the crowd, their eyes upon you, watching every stumble, every failed strike. They don't care whether you live or die. To them, you're just another gladiator, another show, another fleeting moment of entertainment. But this is not just for them, this is for you. You push through the pain, the exhaustion, the fear. There's no time to think, there's only survival. Your hand grips the sword tighter, the pain in your wrist almost unbearable. A new wave of fear crashes over you as you realize you're too slow. The gladiator in front of you sees it too. He's coming for the kill now. You can feel it. His next strike will be the one that ends it. But something inside you snaps. You won't go down like this. Not today. Not without fighting for every last breath. You manage to sidestep his next blow, just barely, your body moving on instinct, and in that moment of desperation, you strike. The sword slices through the air, your body moving without thought, a fluid reaction. It connects with his side. The roar of the crowd is deafening as he stumbles, the blood staining the sand beneath him. He looks at you, eyes wide with shock. You've done it. You've survived another blow. You've done more than that. You've earned your place here. For now, your sword is slit with blood, your body covered in bruises, cuts, and exhaustion, but somehow you're still standing, and that's what matters. For now, you've won, but it's not over. The battle for your life will never be finished here. You've made it through the first fight, the first taste of pain. But there's more coming. You know it, and you're going to have to face it, one breath at a time. Every wound, every ache, every drop of blood spilled only adds to your resolve. There's no turning back now. The pain doesn't matter. The fear doesn't matter. What matters is that you're still alive, and you'll fight to stay that way, no matter the cost. You've already taken more pain than you thought possible. Every movement now feels like it's made of shattered glass. Your limbs are heavy, your chest tight, and your mind is losing the battle. It's as if you're already standing at the edge of something deep and dark, staring down into the abyss. But you can't stop. You can't afford to stop. You have no choice but to push forward. The roar of the crowd fades in the distance, replaced by the thunder of your own heartbeat. The sword in your hand feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds, but it's still the only thing standing between you and death. The man before you is no longer human. He's a beast, eyes wild with bloodlust, sword raised high, and there's nothing left in his gaze but destruction. You've seen it before. The rage, the determination, the will to kill. You've fought men like this, but there's something different in his eyes now. He knows he has you. He smells your weakness, and in this place, that's all it takes. But you can't let it show. You can't let him see the fear rising in your chest. You force your legs to move. You raise your sword. It's a sluggish, painful movement, but it's enough to keep him from finishing it. He lunges at you, a blur of motion, and you barely dodge in time. His blade strikes the air where your head was just moments ago. You feel the wind rush by your face, a cold reminder of how close you came to meeting your end. He's relentless, coming again and again, each strike harder, faster, more merciless than the last. You're outmatched, outclassed, and the arena is filled with the deafening sound of his steel clashing against yours. Every blow brings you closer to the edge. You feel your body tremble, with exhaustion, with fear, and yet, you still stand. You feel a surge of adrenaline. You've fought like this before. Perhaps not like this, but you've been on the brink before. You know that feeling. That moment when everything slows down and your body takes over, when the world falls away and all that's left is your will to survive. You lock eyes with him. You see the moment when he hesitates, just for a second, a split second. That's all you need. You lunge forward, your sword cutting through the air, and it finds its mark. He stumbles, his eyes wide with disbelief, his own blood staining the sand beneath him. You don't feel triumph. You don't feel victory. You just feel the weight of what you've survived. Your body is broken, your strength spent, but somehow, some way, you're still alive. As he crumbles to the ground, you hear the roar of the crowd, but it's distant, muffled by the pounding of your heart. You want to collapse, to fall into the dirt and surrender to the pain, but you can't. Not yet. Not until the fight is over. You force yourself to stand. You force yourself to breathe. Your sword is slick with blood, your body bruised, your muscles screaming in agony, but somehow you remain upright. The world seems to tilt around you, the edges of your vision darkening, but you stay standing. You've won. For now, at least. It doesn't feel like victory. It doesn't feel like anything other than exhaustion, pain, and relief. You've made it through this battle, but you know that more are coming. The fight is never truly over. Not here. Not in this place. Not as long as you're alive. But in this moment, you've done it. You've survived. You've made it through the battle that nearly broke you. And in that, there's a small spark of hope, a tiny glimmer of strength that tells you that, no matter what comes next, you won't go down without a fight. You limp through the archway, each step a quiet scream that no one hears. Your legs are trembling not from fear anymore, but from sheer exhaustion. Blood, yours or someone else's, you can't tell, has dried against your skin, pulling like old leather. The corridor stinks, not in the way a farm stinks, but something sharper, sourer. Sweat, rot, mold, blood, iron. You reach a door barely hanging on its hinge. It groans as you push it open. The room beyond is small, damp, low-ceilinged. It doesn't welcome you. It doesn't hate you either. It simply exists, like a waiting grave. There are a few straw mats on the floor, some occupied, others soaked through. No one looks up. No one speaks. Their eyes are open, staring at the ceiling or the wall or the memory of someone they used to be. You collapse into the nearest patch of straw. It's damp, cold, smells like something once died on it and was forgotten. Your armor digs into your side, but you don't have the strength to remove it. You just lie there, too tired to think, too broken to feel. Your fingers twitch, your jaw aches, your stomach growls, but all of it feels distant, like someone else's body begging for mercy. The walls are stone, but they sweat like flesh. Water trickles down them, puddling into the corners. Somewhere above, rats scurry. A cough echoes. Someone shifts on the other side of the room and you flinch, like you're back in the arena. The silence is unnatural. Not peaceful, but suffocating. A silence so loud it eats thought. You can still hear the crowd. You swear you can. Their cheers, their bloodlust, their hunger for violence that they'll never taste. You wonder if anyone in that crowd remembers your name. If you even have a name anymore. You start to shiver. The cold creeps in not like a wind, but like doubt. Slow, invasive, insidious. You pull your arms around yourself, trying to preserve warmth you don't have. There's no fire, no comfort, just a cracked ceiling and the creaking groans of old wood. Your breath fogs the air, your nose stings. You see a man curled beside you, motionless, sleeping. Maybe dead. You don't know. You don't ask. No one does. You try to close your eyes, but every time you blink, you see your opponent again. His face, his blade. That last second where you weren't sure if it was him or you who'd die. Your heart starts to race again, even though you're lying still. Your limbs refuse to relax. You're stuck in this endless loop of tension, survived but still hunted. You think of home, but what was home? A face, a place, a name on your lips before it was replaced with orders and whips. You don't remember anymore. The room smells worse the longer you breathe it. You wish you could leave, but there's nowhere to go. Nowhere but here, with these strangers who might be your brothers or your executioners. You breathe again, slower this time. The pain in your chest is dull now. Numbness is setting in, and it feels almost like mercy, almost, because deep inside you know you'll have to wake up, and when you do, it starts all over again. You close your eyes, but sleep doesn't come. Instead, memory does, uninvited, vivid, merciless. The sand of the arena still clings to your skin. You remember how it felt beneath your feet. Hot, loose, treacherous. You remember the crowd, their faces a blur, but their noise sharp like arrows. The way they screamed when blood spilled, not in horror, in delight. You see your opponent again. That first moment when you faced him, his eyes weren't angry, they were empty. Hollow, as if something human had been carved out long ago and replaced with survival. He didn't hesitate, you did. You froze, the weight of your weapon unfamiliar, the heat choking, the sun a brutal spotlight. Then he came at you, fast, without warning. You remember the first swing, not his blade, but the sound. It tore the air with a hiss that made your instincts scream. You raised your shield, too slow, felt the shock of impact rattle through your bone. Pain bloomed across your forearm. Not enough to stop you, just enough to remind you this is real. You reacted without thinking, swung back, wildly, missed, nearly fell. The panic was instant, total. Your vision narrowed, your breath shallow. Everything became a blur of motion, noise, and pain. You felt your foot slip on the sand, your knee buckle, your heart spike. You should have died, right there. But instinct saved you. Or maybe luck. You ducked. He overreached. You rolled, not elegantly, but desperately, came up behind him, swung again. This time, you hit. Not deep, not clean, but enough. Enough to make him bleed, enough to make him stagger. That moment, your first real hit. You felt something terrifying. Power and guilt. You didn't want to kill, but you didn't want to die more. That's the truth no one says out loud. You remember the second part of the fight more vividly, not the strikes, but the sounds. Bones breaking, sand crunching, blood hitting the ground like warm rain. You remember the audience gasping, then cheering, as if your pain was a play written for their pleasure. You remember falling again, taste of dirt in your mouth. The scream of another man. Was it you? Was it him? You don't know. At some point, your blade connected in a way that made his body stop moving. Just stop. And suddenly it was over. The silence after, that awful, ringing silence where no one moves, not even you. Just breathing, shaking, bleeding, alive. You stood there, sword limp in your hand, blood dripping from your elbow. Unsure if you'd won or lost. You looked up at the crowd. They were standing now, applauding, as if you'd done something worthy of praise. But you felt empty, dirty, less than human. You killed because you had to, because you were afraid. Not brave, not noble, just desperate. And that, more than anything, is what you carry now. Not the pain, not the blood, but the knowing. That part of you is gone, replaced by something colder. You stare at the ceiling. A crack runs through the stone like a scar that refuses to heal. The straw beneath you is wet. Sweat, maybe blood, hard to tell anymore. And you wonder, how did you end up here? Not just in this room, in this body, in this life. You try to trace it back. Some moment when the world tilted just enough to push you down this path. but all you find is a blur of faces you'll never see again. You weren't born a gladiator, you were made into one. Like a pot slammed into shape, not crafted. You start to ask yourself questions that feel too heavy for a night like this. What is a life worth if it's just surviving one bloodbath to wait for the next? If the only reason people remember your name is because you spilled more blood than the guy before you, they cheer for you now. The same people who wouldn't have looked at you twice when you were free, they chant for you like you're some kind of legend in the making. But you're not a legend. You're not even a man in their eyes. You're a tool. A brief entertainment. One misstep away from becoming someone else's dinner story. And you start to wonder if this is fate. What's the point of fighting it? What's the point of struggling for air if the sky is made of stone? Maybe they were right. Maybe freedom is just another illusion, a word slaves whisper to themselves to feel human. You remember your mother's voice, how she once told you that gods watch over those with clean hearts. Where are those gods now? Watching from marble altars, entertained by your suffering? Or did they look away when you picked up that sword? You laugh, bitterly. It's almost funny, isn't it? That the only thing giving you value now is your ability to take life away, and the more you succeed, the more of yourself you lose. There's no ceremony for that, no grave for the boy you used to be, just silence, and blood, and applause. You start to ask, quietly, the real question that's been hiding in the back of your mind. Are you still you? Is there anything left under the bruises, behind the screams, that still belongs to the person you once were? Or have you become a stranger in your own skin? Some twisted reflection forged in survival and shame? The thought clings to your bones like the cold. You don't cry, not because you're strong, but because even your tears don't know if they're real anymore. You whisper into the dark, asking a question you don't expect an answer to. If I die tomorrow, will any of this have meant something? The silence that follows is the heaviest thing you've carried all day. You don't remember falling asleep, but something wakes you. Not noise, not pain, just light. A weak sliver of it leaking through a crack in the stone wall, like the world outside dared to remember you existed. It's nothing, really, just the earliest trace of dawn. But to eyes that have only seen darkness, even the smallest glow feels like rebellion. You sit up, slowly. Every bone protests. Your body has no reason to move, but something inside you does. It's not strength. It's not even hope. It's the absence of surrender. Your fingers tremble as they find your water gourd. One sip feels like a victory. You breathe in, and for the first time, the air doesn't taste like death. It still stinks of iron and mold, but somewhere in it, there's the faintest whisper of morning, of movement, of a world that doesn't care who lived or died in the arena yesterday. That's when it hits you. Maybe that's the trick. You don't have to win. You don't have to escape. Not yet. You just have to outlast the silence. Outlast the fear. Not forever. Just until the next sunrise. Survive one more hour, one more fight, one more breath. You think of the men who died yesterday. Not all of them were weaker than you. Not all of them deserved it. But they're gone. And you're not. That has to mean something, right? Maybe not to the crowd. Maybe not to the gods. But to you. You're still here, bruised, broken, bleeding, but breathing. And in a place like this, breathing is defiance. You stretch your arms. The pain stabs back, but doesn't break you. You stand. Your legs argue. Your spine complains. But you stand anyway, because lying down felt too much like giving up. A voice in your head whispers, maybe you don't need to find a way out. Not yet. Maybe you just need to become someone they can't break. Not a hero, not a killer, just something solid, something stubborn, something that refuses to disappear. The dawn grows stronger, and for a moment the light touches your face like a secret only you are allowed to feel. No one else stirs yet. The others sleep, dreamless or haunted. You're the only one awake, the only one seeing the promise that exists in this fragile, useless light. You smile, barely. It's not a joyful smile. It's the kind a person wears when they've lost everything and still found something left to hold on to. Something quiet, something hard, something no one taught you how to carry, but you're carrying it anyway. Not hope, but maybe the muscle that hope needs to stand on. And as you watch that light spread across the stone, it no longer feels like a mistake that you're still alive. It feels like the beginning of a decision. You stare at the ceiling and imagine what the sky might look like beyond it. Not this stone vault of captivity, but a real sky. Open, blue, endless. You try to remember the last time you saw it without bars, without blood on your hands or dust in your throat. Was it days ago? Weeks? Or has it already been years in your soul? You don't know, but you want to. That's the dangerous part. Wanting. It returns like an infection, slow but undeniable. The guards want you numb. The crowd wants you savage. The system wants you predictable. But now, in the quiet before the chaos, your mind dares to ask, what if there's something more? What if this isn't the end of your story, but the opening act? What if the iron collar isn't a sentence, but a stage? You feel insane for dreaming. They've beaten men for less, for speaking of escape, for whispering about the outside world like it's real. But in your mind you build it, a path. Maybe through the sewers, maybe bribing a drunk guard, maybe dying on the walls with an arrow in your spine, but smiling anyway, because at least it wasn't in chains. You imagine the weight of the collar gone, the silence of a forest, the smell of real bread, not burned, not molded. You imagine your name spoken by someone who isn't shouting for blood, and in that moment, it's enough. The fantasy becomes armor, not strong, not real, but enough to keep the cold out. You turn to the wall and trace cracks in the stone like they're a map. As if somewhere inside the fractures a line leads out. You know it's foolish. But fools built pyramids, fools crossed oceans, fools refuse to kneel. You're not sure if you're strong enough. You're not sure if you'll even survive the week, but something inside you has begun to pull away from the script, from the routine, from the cage. And that, however faint, is power. They can't see it. You won't show it, but it's there, coiled inside you like a whispered promise. Not today, not yet, but maybe. One day, you walk out of here, not carried, not broken, but standing. You sit in the dark, knees pulled to your chest, and something shifts. It isn't loud, it isn't cinematic, it's quiet, like the soft crack of a bone that's finally healing. The pain hasn't gone, but your relationship to it has. You're not just enduring it anymore, you're studying it, folding it, turning it into something else. The way you did when you were a child, turning fear into stories, hunger into game. And now in this pit of blood and smoke and silence, you begin again. You start to look at your hands, not as weapons, but as tools. You see the wall, not as a barrier, but a challenge. Every bruise becomes a reminder that you survived. Every scar, a map. They want you hollow. They want your soul evacuated, so all that's left is obedience. But tonight, you feel the first ember. It's not a flame yet, but it's warm. It says, you lived. You chose to breathe. You chose not to collapse. And that matters. You don't know what comes next. You might die tomorrow. You might fall in the sand, another nameless corpse swallowed by the cheers of people who forget you before the next fight begins. But you have chosen to mean something. You will not go quietly into the jaws of this machine. Not anymore. You whisper this to yourself like a secret prayer, a pact, a promise. Maybe no one else hears it. Maybe no one ever will, but it's there, growing, a sense that this isn't just survival anymore. It's the beginning of you, The real you, not the chained, not the broken, not the afraid. The you who gets back up again and again until one day you don't fall, and that belief, however fragile, becomes your armor. You wake up, barely. Your eyes feel like they've been sealed shut by dried blood and sweat. The floor beneath your cheek is colder than you remembered. Gritty stone, damp with something that's probably not water. Every bone in your body has filed a complaint. Muscles you didn't know existed have joined in chorus. But you're alive. That alone feels like a cosmic error. You slowly shift your body. It screams. Your ribs feel like they've been rearranged by a drunk sculptor. Your back, bruised, scraped, burning, your fingers tremble as they grip the ground like newborn limbs unsure how to belong. A beam of morning light slices through the iron grate above. Dust floats in it. That's how you realize it's morning. Not because you're rested, not because you feel hope, but because you're still here, breathing, hurting, and alive. Around you, other bodies stir. Some groan. Some don't move at all. You don't check if they're breathing. You don't want to know. You're not ready to start counting the dead. Not yet. The stink of blood and urine and mold has lost its edge. You've acclimated. That scares you more than the pain. You sit up, slowly, vertebra clicking like rusted locks. There's no bed, no blanket, just a patch of dirt that now smells like your skin. You try to stretch. You immediately regret it. Every tendon tightens like it's threatening to snap. But then, something strange happens. You smile. Not a happy smile, not relief, but something bitter and burning. You survived. You made it through that night. The screams, the clash of metal, the knowledge that at any moment someone might kill you in your sleep just to earn an extra piece of bread. And yet, here you are. That matters. That means something. You press your palm to your chest. Your heart is still a frantic animal in a cage, but it's there, still pounding, still protesting. And somewhere between the bruises and the blisters, you realize something important. You're not dead. They didn't break you, not yet. The others rise in silence, limping, stretching, groaning. No one talks. Language feels too expensive. One man coughs blood and keeps walking. Another adjusts the splintered edge of what used to be a nose. No one looks at anyone for too long. But there's something else in the air today, just faint enough to miss. It's not hope. That would be too generous. It's not pride. You're not there yet. It's something smaller, quieter, realer. The awareness of your own pulse. The miracle of motion, a kind of fragile defiance. The day doesn't wait. You hear the clang of chains, the distant bark of the trainer. Time to move. Time to pretend your legs aren't screaming. You press your hand to the wall and pull yourself up. The world tilts, but you find your balance. You take a breath, then another. One more. You start to walk. Not gracefully, not with confidence, but forward. And that, somehow, feels like the first victory of your new life. You don't get to decide when training begins. It begins when the gate opens and the guard kicks your ribs like they're just another lever. You fall forward, breath knocked out, but there's no time to curl up, no moment for mercy. The sun is already high, the sand beneath your knees is hot, rough, sprinkled with dry blood from someone who didn't crawl fast enough. You push yourself up. Everything in your body screams no, but your fear is louder. The trainer is already waiting. He looks like a statue sculpted out of spite. Scarred arms, missing teeth, eyes that never blink. He doesn't speak. He nods. That's enough. You're handed a wooden sword. It feels heavier than yesterday's fear. Your grip is wrong. Your stance is wrong. Your instincts are wrong. The first strike hits your shoulder, not gently, not like teaching, like punishment. You bite your tongue so hard you taste iron. The second hit lands on your thigh. You drop the sword. Mistake. A boot finds your ribs. You wheeze. The man says nothing. He just stares and waits. Somehow that's worse than shouting. You pick it up again. This time you manage to block, barely. The impact travels through your arm like fire in your bones. Your vision blurs. But you're standing. That counts. You're made to repeat the same movements over and over. Step forward, block, strike, reset. Again, again, again. Until your arms feel detached from your will. Until your legs tremble under your own weight. Until your breath is just a sequence of shallow gasps between pain. Around you, others are training too. No one speaks. Pain is the only language. You hear grunts, the crack of wood on skin, the occasional muffled sob. No one laughs, no one helps. You fall again, this time face first into the sand. A small stone cuts your lip. You think about staying down, just breathing here, in the dirt. But then you feel it, the trainer's gaze. Like a sword pressed against your spine. You get up. You always get up. That's the rule. Fall, scream, bleed, but never stop. That's how you survive. Not by skill, not by strength. By refusing to die when it would be easier. Eventually your mind stops counting time. Your body moves like it's no longer yours. Pain becomes background noise like hunger or the smell of rust. The sword becomes an extension of your numbness. At one point, the trainer grunts. It might be approval or indigestion. Doesn't matter. You file it under small wins. The sun shifts. Your sweat mixes with sand, becomes mud on your skin. Your wounds ache with every movement, and yet, you're still here, breathing, bleeding, but moving. Your body broken, your will held together by the tiniest thread of defiance. This is the law here. Obey or break. But in your silent, shaking core, you realize something terrifyingly powerful. You can do both. You can obey with your body and break the rules in your mind. You're still yours, quietly, secretly, fiercely. It doesn't get easier. You just get less surprised by the pain. The sword doesn't feel like a weapon yet. It still feels like a question. Heavy, unbalanced, awkward in your grip. You swing and it's wrong. Again, you lunge and your footing slides. Again, you block too early or too late or with the wrong part of the blade. Again, you fall. Again. The trainer doesn't correct you. He just watches. Maybe he's waiting to see if failure eventually teaches you faster than he ever could. Your muscles don't remember anything yet, so every move is raw calculation. 1 second too long, and you're on the ground again. You start to notice little things, where your thumb slips, how your shoulders tighten, how your balance breaks the moment you stop breathing. So you breathe. You fail, you breathe again. Somewhere between bruises and curses, something small shifts. You begin to anticipate, not well, not confidently, but you start to move before the strike lands, not after. One time you block. The sound of wood hitting wood echoes louder in your mind than your own heartbeat. The trainer pauses, doesn't smile, just nods slightly and walks away. You sit in that moment like it's your first sip of water in days, but the next hour is hell again. Victory doesn't guarantee progress here. You forget everything again. You drop the sword twice. Your wrist twists. Your knee gives. Pain resets everything. Your body is still learning, and it learns slowly. Like a wounded animal trying to walk again, clumsy and angry, but something is starting. Under the bruises, beneath the swelling, something is waking up. You begin to feel the weight of the sword less like a burden, more like a shape to memorize. Like a partner you don't trust yet, but must learn to dance with. Every step, every block is a whispered negotiation between survival and surrender. You fall a little less. You flinch a little slower. Your feet start to move without waiting for your brain's permission. That's not talent. That's repetition. That's trauma, slowly forming into muscle memory. Your body is cataloging pain, speed, distance, turning it into rhythm. Not beauty, not elegance, just a brutal form of consistency. The other trainees don't talk, but they start to watch you longer, maybe wondering if you'll last, maybe hoping you won't. Trust is dangerous here, but so is being noticed. You learn that too. The cuts on your hands reopen every day. The calluses aren't hard enough yet. Your fingers tremble when you grip the hilt too long, but you don't stop. Because stopping means erasing every second of progress, and you've bled for those seconds. The trainer still doesn't praise, but he doesn't hit you as much. That's something. Every night, your muscles scream, but your mind whispers back. You remembered something today. You adapted, and for the first time that whisper is louder than the pain. You start to notice the patterns long before you understand them. Who eats first, who never speaks, who watches everyone and who gets watched. It's not written anywhere, but the rules are as real as the chains on your ankles. The loudest ones aren't the strongest. They're just the ones still pretending they matter. The silent ones? They've already decided they'll outlive you. You learn quickly where to sit, how to take food without taking too much, how to lower your eyes without looking afraid. Every gesture here is a signal. Every mistake is remembered. You see a man get stabbed for touching the wrong man's cloak. No one reacts, not even the guards. There's no justice in this place, just hierarchy enforced by scars. You begin to track who sleeps near the walls and who sleeps under the torchlight, who sharpens their blade longer than necessary, and who sleeps with it under their blanket. The old gladiator with one eye and a missing finger never trains, but no one speaks near him. One day, he looks at you. Just once. That night, you sleep closer to the wall. You eat food that tastes like leather and ash, and it still feels like a gift. No one thanks anyone. Gratitude is weakness. You learn to trade without speaking, half a loaf for a scrap of cloth, a dull whetstone for a bit of dried meat. Trust doesn't exist here, only temporary alignment. You stop calling it betrayal when someone takes your water while you're sleeping. That's just strategy. You start to understand the rhythm. Train, eat, pretend to sleep, survive the night. No one laughs, except the ones who've already gone mad. And yet there's something addictive about this structure. Brutal, yes, but clear. Unlike the world you came from, this one doesn't lie about what it is. You wake, you fight, you suffer, repeat. And in a twisted way, that truth feels honest. There's a boy no older than 15 who never speaks but always wins. Not because he's strong, but because he's fast. He eats alone. His eyes are always swollen. You don't ask what happened to him before this life. No one asks anything. Questions are invitations to vulnerability. You watch a man feed another his last piece of bread. A day later, the one who received it is found dead. That's how gratitude ends here. But in the silence between blood and training, a strange understanding forms. The way wolves acknowledge each other across the snow. You're not friends, but maybe, for now, you're not enemies. You make eye contact, briefly, then never again. That's respect here, acknowledging someone's existence without making it a liability. You stop trying to make sense of morality. This place doesn't run on right and wrong, it runs on consequence. And strangely, that simplicity makes you feel more awake than you ever did in your old life. Like the rules of the world have finally stopped lying to you. You don't know if you're becoming stronger or just more adapted to cruelty. But every time you breathe, every time you make it through another meal, another stare, another cold night, you're still here. And somehow that means you're learning. You stop flinching at every scream. At first it was instinct. Every cry for mercy, every crack of bone, every clang of iron against iron, it made your stomach twist. But now, your body no longer reacts. Not because you're numb, but because your mind has started to categorize pain like weather. Some days are colder than others. Some wounds bleed more. But none of it surprises you anymore. You used to dream of home. Now you dream of scenarios, how you'd fight two men with only a broken shield, how you disarm a larger opponent using his momentum. You don't cry anymore. Not because the sorrow is gone, but because tears are too precious. You need that water to survive. You no longer fear death. You simply calculate it. Who could kill you in this room? How fast? From which angle? You're not terrified of the end. You're just obsessed with avoiding it for one more day. You watch your reflection in a dirty pan of water. The face is familiar, but the eyes are not. They're still, unreadable. There's a hardness around the mouth that wasn't there before. You don't recognize it, but it doesn't matter. That man survives. That's all that matters now. You used to recoil from the violence. Now you study it. The way the blade moves through muscle. The way pain bends a man's posture. You're not celebrating it. You're memorizing it. The first time you parried an attack, your hands were shaking. The last time, you didn't even blink. Something has shifted, not in your body, in your mind. The fear is still there, buried deep like coal, but above it, something else has taken root. A clarity, decision. You will not go quietly. You will not die a nameless slave in a pit of blood. If you fall, it will be with your hands around someone's throat, your eyes locked onto theirs, reminding them that you were never just another body. The instructors notice. They don't praise you. They never do. But they stop correcting you. They move on to the slower ones. You take this as a sign. You're no longer the weakest, not the strongest either. But you're noticed. That alone is dangerous. You learn to hide your progress, fail just enough to avoid attention. Let others believe you're lucky. Meanwhile, your grip tightens, your steps quiet, your eyes sharper. You've stopped asking when it will end. You no longer pray for rescue. You don't believe in rescue. You believe in leverage, in silence, in the blade you sleep beside. Your nightmares have changed, no longer about death, but about losing your edge, about growing soft. That's the new fear now. You'd rather bleed than lose this fire, this edge that has replaced your name. You've begun to understand. Fear was the first layer, but underneath it was always will. And that will, your will, is the only thing they cannot change. You stop reacting like prey. There's a moment, maybe it was during training, maybe while watching someone else fall, and you feel it, a pull inside your ribs, a sensation that isn't just survival, it's direction, hunger. You swing your sword, and this time it's not just defense, it's intention. There's force behind it, not panic. Your body no longer trembles in anticipation of pain. It lunges forward, chasing something. For the first time, you don't flinch. You strike. You realize how much of your life was spent shrinking into obedience, shrinking into silence. Now, every muscle stretches outward, claiming space. The man in front of you is bigger, stronger, more experienced. But you see his breath, you hear the rhythm of his steps, you wait, you time your strike, and when you land it, when your blade touches skin, when the air shifts because of something you chose, you feel it. Not pride, not revenge, power, the smallest taste of it. It's intoxicating and terrifying because now you want more. You don't just want to live, you want to dominate the moment. You want to control the direction. You want to choose who walks out and who doesn't. You stare at the arena differently now, not like a prisoner, like a player, a tactician, a predator learning the terrain. The blood, the crowd, the sun, all of it becomes part of your map. You stop looking for the gate out. You start looking for the pattern, the cracks in the system, the way certain guards flinch, the angle of the sun at midday, the way the sand shifts under heavy armor. Every detail is fuel, and that fire inside you, it's no longer just fear. It's a plan, a strategy, a possibility. That maybe one day you won't just survive this place. You'll own it, break it, bend it to your will, maybe even walk away, not crawling but standing, head high, eyes forward, a man who refused to stay broken, a ghost with fists, a name they will never forget. You begin to remember not just faces, but moments, the scream of your mother as they pulled you from her arms, the weight of your father's silence, the day they branded you, the way your name was erased from every tongue that used to call you something gentle. They didn't just steal your freedom, they stole your story, and now, in the stench of sweat and iron, you begin to reclaim it, slowly. Not by shouting it out loud, but by writing it into your muscles, into your scars, into the way you no longer bow your head when the guards pass. You don't say their names anymore. You don't flinch when they yell, because now you see through them. You see their fear of men like you who stop dying quietly. You think of the crowd that cheers when blood hits the sand. You wonder if one day they'll cheer your name, not because you gave them a show, but because you gave them a mirror, a reflection of everything they thought they could never be. You start to dream, not in sleep, but in strategy. What if you could win? Not just the fights, but the system. What if you could climb high enough that your chains become medals? What if the very people who spat on you had to bow one day, not to your sword, but to your story? There's a fire now, not a wildfire, a forge, controlled, burning with purpose. You don't train just to survive anymore. You train to dominate, to remember every face that watched you fall and make sure they live long enough to watch you rise. You plan escape routes. You study weaknesses. You whisper to yourself at night. Not prayers, but promises. That you will find the man who sold you, that you will carve his name into the same walls they used to shackle you, that you will become the storm that sweeps across their empire, not because you love revenge, but because you love justice, the real kind, the kind that isn't clean or poetic, the kind that comes with scars and silence and the long, slow reclaiming of everything they tried to crush. You want dignity, not given, but taken. You want freedom, not handed, but seized. You want to be more than a survivor. You want to be a monument, a symbol, a warning that men like you don't disappear quietly, that chains can break, that names can return, that one day someone else in the dirt will hear your story and realize they're not alone, that they too can rise. Not just to breathe, but to burn. Something shifts. It's subtle at first. Not a thought, but a presence. Not a plan, but a shape forming in the silence of your suffering. You start walking differently, not just to save energy or avoid injury, but because you are becoming someone, something. A creature forged from pain, yes, but also from vision. Your eyes no longer just scan for threats. They assess everything. Weaknesses, rhythm patterns. You begin to think beyond survival, beyond revenge. You begin to sense a future that isn't just you escaping this hell, but bending it. Bending the cage until it resembles a throne, not because you want to rule, but because you refuse to kneel. There's no single moment where it happens, no divine light, no whispered prophecy, just a slow and quiet alignment of self. You catch yourself speaking less, watching more, listening differently. You study the guards, not their weapons, but their moods, their routines, their arguments. You start seeing fractures in the fortress, cracks in the hierarchy. Every shout, every beating, every drop of blood you've swallowed. Each one becomes part of your internal ledger, not for vengeance, but for understanding. Because understanding is power. And you can feel it accumulating inside you like storm water under stone. This isn't just about fighting anymore. It's about becoming someone whose gaze cannot be dismissed, whose silence is heavier than a general's command. The others start to notice too, not with words. No one dares to speak in this place of shifting loyalties, but you sense it in their glances, the brief nods of respect, the way they hesitate before crossing you. You are becoming myth, even among men not prone to worship, and the myth is simple, that maybe, just maybe, you're not like the others. That maybe you were sent here not to die, but to remind death it doesn't always get the last word. There are nights when the thought makes you laugh, not loud, just a breath of irony between cracked lips. You who cried in the straw the first night. You who shook during that first kill. You now learning how to weaponize breath, stillness, and memory. You are not a warrior yet, but you are something adjacent to it, something ancient, a potential wrapped in bruises and grit. Not destiny, no. Something more dangerous, decision. A decision repeated each morning when you choose not to collapse, each afternoon when you rise after being struck, each night when you close your eyes, not to escape, but to recharge. You're not waiting for salvation. You are slowly, carefully constructing yourself into it. You wake up to the sound of chains rattling, but this time it's not your own. It's someone else being dragged across the stone floor like a sack of meat, and your body tenses before your eyes even open. There's no sunlight through the iron slits today, just a dim orange glow, the kind of color that makes everything feel like it's already been soaked in blood. You don't remember when you were told, or by who, but you know today isn't training, not the kind you're used to. Today they take you to a different arena, not the sand pit with wooden swords and barked orders, but a closed yard behind high walls, where there are no spectators, only the scent of oil, metal, and sweat, thick like fog. The air feels different here. You hear men breathing hard, not in rhythm but fractured and afraid. They call it live drill, but nothing about it feels like a drill. You're handed a blade real, not blunted, and a buckler with fresh dents in it. Someone used it yesterday. Someone didn't bring it back. Your trainer doesn't speak. He nods toward a gate. It opens, and out comes someone like you. But not like you. His eyes are dull in a way yours aren't, not yet. His shoulder bears a fresh scar that still leaks through the bandage. You wonder what he thinks when he sees you. Does he want to kill you, or does he want to survive? The answer doesn't matter. Both lead to blood. There's no signal, no horn, just movement. He charges, and your legs don't move fast enough. The shield catches his swing, but your arm goes numb. You smell iron, not from the blade, from your own blood. You didn't even see it. A scratch across your ribs, shallow but personal. It wakes something, panic, but under the panic, clarity. Every part of you wants to run, but the circle is closed. You can't, not today, not anymore. You fake a stumble, he lunges. You rotate the shield upward, catch his wrist, the knife drops. You hesitate. That second, that single half-breath is your last one as prey. You bring the hilt down on his temple. He doesn't drop instantly. No, he looks at you first, like he understands something, then crumples. Your chest rises and falls like it's trying to claw its way out of your own ribs. No one claps, no one praises. The trainer grabs your wrist, raises it, and says only, "Next." Another man steps forward, taller, older, tattooed, dead eyes. You realize this is the point. They're not testing your technique. They're testing how long it takes for your mind to understand that mercy is a death sentence here. The second fight is worse. Not because he's stronger, but because now you know what's coming, and still, it hurts. You block better. You aim for joints. You stop pulling punches, and somewhere in the middle of it, between a cracked nose and torn knuckles, you lose the ability to remember who you were before this. It's not killing, not yet, but it's the rehearsal of it. Your soul is learning the choreography. You don't sleep that night. You don't cry. You clean the blade you didn't ask for. You press linen to your side until the bleeding slows. You stare at your hands and wonder why they don't shake. They should. They really should. But they don't. You survived blood training, not because you were faster or better, but because some small, invisible part of you died when you didn't flinch. And now there's room for something else to grow in its place. They don't tell you his name, maybe because names make things human, and he isn't, not anymore. He stands in the shade like a statue carved from war itself. Scar over one eye, muscles roped tight like he was stitched together with leather and rage. You hear the whispers before you see him. 12 kills, no wounds, doesn't speak. He's not a legend. Legends are stories you tell. He's the reason people go quiet during meals. The arena isn't the training yard. It breathes. It drinks fear like wine. The sand has soaked up enough blood to have its own scent now. Warm, coppery, almost sweet. Your legs feel like wood, but they move. Because they have to. Because you'd rather face him than the man behind you who pushes you forward. You grip the sword like it might save you, even though you know it won't. He doesn't run. He walks. Every step is the sound of your future shrinking. When he lifts his blade, it's casual, like scratching an itch. The first swing misses, but the wind it carries cuts your cheek. You don't feel the pain, you feel the cold behind it, like death just kissed your skin and moved on. You dodge, barely. You strike weak. He blocks, effortless. Then the back of his hand crashes against your jaw and the world turns sideways. You hit the ground and sand fills your mouth like silence. He doesn't press the kill. He waits, watches, like a cat with a broken bird. You realize he wants to see what you'll do, not if you'll fight, but how. You crawl to your feet and spit blood. Your fingers tremble, but they hold. You circle. He follows. His eyes are dead, but behind them, something tests you. You go low, feint left, swing right. He catches your wrist midair. There is no pain, only shame. The shame of being seen through, of being small. But he doesn't break your arm. He lets go, then shoves you back and says nothing. The crowd doesn't cheer. They murmur, confused. He turns his back to you, inviting you to try. You freeze. He knows you won't. Not yet. Because killing isn't reflex, it's belief. And you still believe in hesitation. That's when you understand. This isn't about survival. This is a lesson. He's not your opponent. He's your mirror, showing you how far you are from being real. Not a slave, not a man. A thing that kills when needed. A thing that chooses death so it can live. The match ends when you don't fall, when you refuse to break. He doesn't finish you. He nods, slightly, almost imperceptibly, and leaves. You don't win, you're not meant to. But in the silence after, when your ears stop ringing and the crowd starts breathing again, you know this. He saw you. And you are still here. You don't remember falling, just the weight, not of your body, of failure, of being seen, judged, and still not good enough. The sand was warm when your face hit it. Strange, how warmth can feel cruel. You weren't dead, but you wanted to be, not because dying seemed easier, but because surviving like this, humiliated, broken, irrelevant, felt like a joke only the gods could laugh at. The medic didn't speak to you. Just wrapped your ribs like he was preparing meat for market. You looked down and your hands weren't shaking anymore. They were just still, empty, useless. The cheering from earlier still echoed in your skull, but none of it was for you. You weren't the fighter. You were the entertainment, the disposable, the almost. When they dragged you back, no one met your eyes, not even the ones who used to sneer, and that was worse. Because silence isn't mercy, it's recognition. Recognition that you failed at the one thing you were allowed to be, violent. And you weren't even good at that. You lay on the stone slab that pretended to be a bed. You stared at the ceiling like it might crack open and offer an answer, or just fall and crush you. Either would be fine. Sleep didn't come. Only flashes. The enemy's eyes. The moment your knee gave out. The crowd's noise cutting through you like a blade, dull with use. Somewhere between consciousness and surrender, you heard laughter. Not real. In your mind. Your own voice mocking you. You thought you were something. You thought pain made you worthy, but pain doesn't forge anything unless you survive it, and you weren't sure you had. The next day, the trainer didn't even call your name. Skipped you, like an injured horse. Not worth breaking. You tried to rise anyway, but your body said no in 7 different languages of agony. You sat, and that somehow felt worse than bleeding. You were present, but absent. There, but fading, like a ghost haunting the shell of a man. Others trained. You watched, heard grunts, impacts, the rhythm of violence, and it all felt like music from another life. You weren't a note in that song, just noise. You thought of your past, not because it gave you comfort, but because pain needed roots. You remembered your mother's hands, the way she tied your tunic before chores. You remembered the last meal you had as a free man. Bread, olives, a bad joke, a good laugh. That version of you felt fictional. Dead in every way that mattered. You were a body now, a breath. A bruised collection pretending to be a person. And worse, you didn't even feel anger, just vacancy. Like grief had moved in and unpacked everything. You weren't fighting for anything. You weren't fighting at all, just existing. And even that felt borrowed. The lowest point isn't when you cry, it's when you don't. When you forget what tears even feel like. When numbness becomes normal. That night, you didn't eat. You didn't sleep. You didn't speak. You just sat in the corner, watched the moonlight crawl across the floor like a thief, and wondered. If it came to steal your last piece of self, would you even notice? You weren't supposed to care, that's what they told you. The first day, the first blood, the first scream. They all said the same thing in different voices. Don't grow attached. Don't give names to faces. Don't watch too closely when someone doesn't get up. Because caring gets you killed, not in the body, but in the mind. And the mind, once broken, doesn't heal like bone. But then there was him. The one who always tied his sandals too tight. The one who called you rookie with a half smile, like he didn't hate you for breathing. You didn't know where he came from or why he fought, but he made this place feel less like a prison and more like a bad joke you could laugh at. And today you watched him die. Not quickly, not cleanly. It wasn't a hero's death. It wasn't even a fair one. It was slow and ugly and loud. You heard the snap of his arm before you saw the blade cut him open. You watched his blood mix with sand, watched his eyes searching for something that wasn't there. Maybe mercy, maybe memory, maybe just you. And you didn't move. You stood like a statue carved from fear and guilt, not because you didn't want to help, but because helping meant dying next. And you weren't ready to die. Not yet. So you watched, silent, still, a coward in gladiator skin. Later they cleared the body like trash. No one spoke his name. No one looked at the blood. It dried, like it was never alive to begin with. The crowd cheered. They always cheer. Not for the dead, for the show. You wondered if they'd cheer at your funeral too. You sat alone that night, back against cold stone, staring at the empty spot where he used to sleep. The room didn't feel smaller. It felt wrong, like reality had shifted by a few degrees and no one noticed but you. You tried to remember his voice. You failed. Tried to picture his face. It blurred. Tried to feel something other than shame. Didn't. They say grief is heavy, but here it feels thin. Like a whisper you're not allowed to hear. You wanted to scream, not out of sorrow, but rage. Rage at yourself, rage at the system, rage at the fact that the world never stops spinning, not even for the dead. You told yourself you'd fight harder tomorrow, that you'd make his death mean something, but deep down you knew the truth. This place doesn't care about meaning. It only cares about blood, and yours is next on the list. Strength isn't the loudest voice in the arena. It's not the biggest scar or the deepest roar. It's not the man who swings the heaviest blade or the one who kills without blinking. That's what they want you to believe, because it's easy to cheer for muscle, easy to worship brute force. But when you've seen the strongest fall, when you've watched a titan bleed out like a lamb, you start to question everything. You start to notice the quiet ones. The ones who listen more than they speak. The ones who move only when it matters. The ones who are never where the blade lands. That's when it clicks. Strength isn't noise. It's timing. It's restraint. It's knowing when not to strike. You sit in the training yard, bruises blooming on your skin like dark flowers, and you study, not the weapons, but the men. You watch how they walk, how they breathe, how they flinch when they're tired. You start to see patterns. Weakness hiding in pride, anger masking fear, confidence that cracks under pressure, and you learn. You learn that every man telegraphs his death if you know how to read him. You begin to move differently. Not faster, not harder, just smarter. You feint instead of charging. You wait instead of lunging. And sometimes, you do nothing at all. That's the hardest part. Doing nothing. Holding still when everything in you screams to fight. Because you've learned the truth. Force without thought is suicide. They used to call you a slave, then a rookie, then a survivor. Now they call you something else. Dangerous, because you're not just alive. You're awake. Awake to the politics between the guards. Awake to the fragile ego of the champion who always wins too cleanly. Awake to the whispers about rebellion, the secret trades, the moments where one word can shift the fate of 5 men. You start to collect information like weapons. You trade silence for observation. You realize that a favor today can be a shield tomorrow. You realize the blade is only as useful as the hand that knows when to hide it. This isn't war, it's chess, and most of the pieces don't even know they're being played. You remember the man who died, his brute strength, his pride, and you wonder, if he had waited one more second, would he have lived? That thought haunts you, drives you, not to be stronger, but to be wiser. The body breaks, but the mind, if you sharpen it enough, it becomes the deadliest thing in the arena. And you are learning to sharpen yours. They didn't call your name. That's the part that gets to you. You weren't chosen. You weren't ordered. You had a choice. And still, you stepped forward. You looked into that pit again, the same one that nearly swallowed you whole last time, and instead of running, you walked into it. Not because you wanted to die, but because something worse had started growing in you. The fear of staying the same. You were no longer content with survival. Survival was yesterday's ambition. Now you want control. Now you want to decide when you bleed. You volunteer. The room goes quiet. Even the veterans glance at you like you've lost your mind. Maybe you have. Maybe part of you has to be broken to go back into hell on purpose. But that's the point, isn't it? You don't wait for fate to drag you anymore. You drag it into the mud, into the sand, into the arena. Your feet hit the dust again. Same roar, same stench, different you. You're not the scared body curled in the corner. You're the one breathing slowly, counting heartbeats, waiting for the moment. Your opponent is massive, predictably so, covered in trophies and scars and stories you'll never hear because you're too busy writing your own. He smiles like he's already won. You smile too, but only with your eyes. That's what terrifies him. You're not here to perform. You're not here to prove. You're here to break a pattern. Every moment feels like a test you designed yourself. And the only prize is not flinching. You don't flinch. The blade comes close. You move, not wildly, not desperately, just enough. Enough to let him miss. Enough to let him wonder. What changed? What happened to the soft, shaking thing they threw in here last week? You happened. You with your silence. You with your strategy. You with your rage repurposed into precision. Every step is a choice. Every swing a sentence in a language you've started to master. And here's the truth that settles in your bones like armor. You came back by choice. You looked into the same fire and said, "I'm not done." You said it not with words, but with blood, sweat, and something no one can measure. Will. Not to survive, but to command. And when the match ends, and it will, one way or another, you'll either rise again, or you won't. But you'll know you didn't wait. You didn't hide. You entered hell. On purpose. Eyes open, spine straight. And somehow, that makes you more terrifying than anyone here. This isn't just another fight. This is the fight. The one they whisper about in dark corners of the barracks. The one that leaves men different. Or leaves them gone. You've seen the opponent before. Not his face, but his legend. The way others look away when his name is mentioned. The way silence wraps around the camp whenever he passes. And now he's standing across from you. Flesh and blood and everything in between. You feel no fear, not because it's gone, but because you've burned it down to something sharper. It's not fear now. It's focus and hunger. The arena feels smaller. The air tighter. Every eye in the crowd pressing against your skin, like the tip of a blade. They want blood, but you want more. You want clarity. You want to test whether everything you've learned, every bruise, every broken rib, every moment you refuse to die, can actually bend fate. He charges first. Of course he does. Men like him always do. Power is the only language they know, but you've been learning a different one. The language of angles, of patience, of anticipation. You sidestep, not by luck, not by instinct, but by design. You've studied this. You built yourself for this. His blade misses by inches, but in that moment he learns something. You aren't afraid of him, and worse, you understand him. He roars because that's what monsters do when they lose control. You stay silent because that's what killers do when they gain it. The rhythm begins, the deadly waltz. He swings. You duck. He feints. You parry. Dust and sweat mix into a blur of motion. You feel your body scream, but your mind hums, cold and clear. He tries to crush you, but you aren't where you were. You're already 2 moves ahead, carving a path through the chaos with sheer intent. Then he lands a hit. It's real, deep. The world tilts, your knees buckle, but you stay upright. Because this pain isn't unfamiliar. It's a reminder, a friend. And it whispers, don't stop now. Blood warms your side, but you use it. You bait him. Let him think you're weakening. Let him taste victory. Because when he overreaches, you're ready. One breath, one slip, one perfect strike. You don't aim for glory. You aim for the gap, and you find it. He stumbles. It's your turn. You move without hesitation, not like a slave, not like a trainee, but like something new, a creature forged in violence, tempered by purpose. He falls. The crowd erupts, but you don't hear it. Not yet. You stand over him, chest heaving, blade still raised, not to kill, but to prove you could have. That you chose not to. That choice. It's power. And as the dust settles, you finally exhale, not because the fight is over, but because you ended it, on your terms. You don't remember the moment the fight ended. Not really, just fragments. A shift in weight, the dull thud of your opponent hitting the ground. A pause in the universe, like the gods themselves inhaled. What you do remember is the silence, not the cheering. No, that comes later, but that split-second silence. Heavy, dense, honest. Because in that moment, everyone watching realized something terrifying. You were supposed to die, but you didn't, and that makes you dangerous. You stand there, blood dripping down your side, your weapon lowered, not in triumph, but in exhaustion. You're not the victor, you're the survivor. And somehow, that's worse. Because victors can be predicted, celebrated, controlled. Survivors, they're chaotic, uncomfortable. They break the script. You look at the crowd. Faces you'll never know, mouths open, eyes wide. Some cheer, some don't, but all of them remember you now. Not because you won, but because you endured. You glance at the body, still breathing. You spared him. Not because you're noble, not because you're merciful, but because you chose to. And that, in a world built on spectacle and death, is power. You walk off the sand. Every step heavy. Your legs don't move from strength. They move from decision. There are no medals, no parades. Just the slow return to the tunnel, the stink of sweat and iron, and the knowing that today you bent fate. In the barracks, it's quiet. The men don't speak, but they look at you differently now. A nod here, averted gaze there, respect in its rawest form. Silence, because respect, in this place, isn't earned through words. It's carved into you. It's the limp in your step, the blood on your ribs, the fact that you're still here. Someone leaves half their bread near your cot. Not a gift, not pity, a gesture, a whisper between warriors. I see you. You lie down. Every nerve screams, but beneath the pain, something new pulses. Not pride, not relief, something quieter, older, like the first spark of belief that maybe, just maybe, you're not here just to die more slowly than the others. Maybe there's something beyond this. A meaning, a plan, a self. And just before sleep takes you, you smile. Not because you're safe, but because for the first time, you're seen. Under the fading Roman sun, your feet drag across the blood-soaked sand, muscles twitching with every reluctant step. The crowd's roars are gone now. Only the wind remains, carrying with it the metallic scent of iron and death. You are not sure if you're walking away from the fight or still trapped inside it. Each footfall echoes like the last beat of a dying drum. Yet you're upright, breathing, somehow. You run your tongue along your cracked lips, salt, dry, the taste of survival. Your vision blurs, not from tears, but from disbelief. Did you actually make it? Around you, the shadows of the arena stretch long and thin, like fingers trying to drag you back into the dirt. You don't look at the corpses left behind, not out of bravery, but because you know one of them could have been you. Should have been you, but it wasn't. You feel the air scratch your throat like sandpaper. It's cold now. Funny, the heat of combat always fools you into thinking the world is aflame. Now your skin stings in the absence of that chaos. You exhale slowly, like releasing something ancient from your ribs. You don't speak. There's no one to speak to, only the sky above, cracked with dusk, and the slow grind of your heartbeat beneath battered flesh. You're walking, just walking, and that feels like an act of defiance. Every limp, every tremble is a small rebellion. You remember the jeers of the crowd, the way they screamed, not for justice, but for blood. You gave them what they wanted, and yet you didn't give yourself away. Not fully. Not yet. The gate creaks as you pass through it, and for a moment you wonder if it's closing behind you forever, or if this is just another loop, another hell. You pass another fighter. He doesn't nod, doesn't look. You are invisible again, a ghost draped in wounds. But this time, you like it. Invisibility is power when the spotlight demands your death. You trace the scar on your forearm, fresh and ugly. Proof not of pain, but of presence. You were there. You mattered enough to be marked. You step into the hallway, into the stone belly of this monstrous place. The air is thicker here, soaked in dampness and old sweat. You press your hand against the wall to steady yourself. The stone is cold, real, and so are you. You made it. You survived. For now. Your body remembers before your mind does. The ache in your shoulders is ancient now, the bruises blooming into purple testaments of defiance. Every breath you draw comes with a subtle sting, a reminder that your ribs were nearly broken, but not quite. The bed of straw beneath you is merciless, but you've learned how to lie still without pain. Almost. You're not sure how many hours have passed since the fight, but time feels meaningless here. Measured only in pain, pulse, and silence. And yet something inside you has shifted. It's not just the adrenaline fading. It's something quieter, something heavier. You stare at the ceiling and realize that for the first time, you're not thinking about dying. You're thinking about why you didn't. And that why is louder than the crowd, stronger than your fear. You survived not because you were lucky. You survived because something in you refused to collapse. There's a voice in your head now, not the one that used to beg for escape, but a new one. Steadier, sharper. It doesn't scream. It waits. It watches. It remembers every step, every feint, every scream of the crowd that once owned your fate. You realize you're starting to see them, not as gods watching you from the stands, but as shadows that flinch when the light hits. Your pain is no longer a cage, it's a map of every place you broke and every place you healed just enough to keep moving. You shift your hand and feel the grime under your nails, proof you fought. Proof you weren't just meat, you were will, pure will. And now that will is evolving. The room smells like rust and damp cloth. You breathe it in like incense. This is your cathedral now, a place where pain sanctified something inside you. Not pride, exactly, not yet, but something closer to identity. You close your eyes and try to sleep. Not because you're exhausted. You've been exhausted since the day they took your name. But because rest is an act of war. Rest is how you gather for the next strike. The others around you snore, twitch, cry in their dreams. You remain still, silent, awake. Not with fear this time, but with clarity. You understand now. Survival was never the goal. It was the test, the awakening. And now you're finally alive. You always thought cages were made of iron, of stone, of walls you could touch. But the real ones, the ones that hold the tightest, are made of belief. Belief that you'll never escape, that this sand-stained pit is the beginning and end of your name. But now, after everything, after blood and sweat, and nights where your soul screamed into the silence, you see it. A crack. A crack so small it could be mistaken for madness. A flicker in the corner of your eye when the guard forgets to lock the chain tight. The brief hesitation in a trainer's command. The whisper between slaves that stops when you pass by. They don't see it yet. They haven't felt it yet, but you have. It's not hope, not exactly. Hope is soft. This is sharper, like a splinter of ice lodged in your gut, reminding you that the world outside still exists, and maybe, just maybe, it hasn't forgotten you. Every routine now has meaning. Every weapon drill, every meal line, every shift in formation. It's no longer just survival. It's reconnaissance. You start watching more than fighting, counting how many steps it takes for the guard to circle the barracks, memorizing the way the gates creak open at dawn, mapping the sliver of sky you can see through the crack in the eastern wall. You stop asking if and start whispering when. and it changes you. You walk straighter, not proudly, but purposefully. You speak less, not out of fear, but out of strategy. Every conversation is a potential leak. Every eye contact is a test. You start hearing things no one else does. The sound of armor scraped on stone. The shift in tone when a handler is tired or distracted. The fear in the voice of the new recruit chained beside you, whispering about a brother who once escaped and vanished into the hills. Maybe he's dead, but maybe not. That maybe keeps you alive. And then there's the man they all fear, the one who never speaks, covered in scars that tell stories no tongue could repeat. One day, during sparring, he knocks you to the ground, and for a second you see it in his eyes. Recognition, not of your face, but of the flicker, the same crack. You don't speak. You don't need to. He walks away, but doesn't finish you. And that, in this place, is a kind of conversation. The kind that plants seeds in silence. The kind that says, I see you. The kind that says, maybe we break this together. Nights become more than rest. They become planning. Fantasies shaped into sketches. Not grand escapes through flaming tunnels. Not cinematic freedom beneath moonlight, but quiet, careful carving. A stolen nail. A loose brick. A moment no one notices. You don't know where you'd go, or who you'd be outside these walls. You've been property for so long that freedom sounds like fiction. But that's the thing about fiction. It begins with belief. And you believe now. You believe because every time you close your eyes, you see yourself running. Not from something, but towards something. Not away from death, but into your own damn name. Into the space where no one tells you when to eat, when to bleed, when to kneel. You imagine that first breath of air beyond the arena wall. No cheers, no chains, just silence, and your own voice in your own head saying, finally, you were never theirs. You feel the cage cracking, not loudly, not visibly, but constantly, and you keep your mouth shut. You play your role, you train, you kneel, you bleed on cue. But inside you are building something, not a plan, not a map, a flame, small, fierce, unseen, the kind that waits, the kind that knows. Every wall breaks eventually. You used to count the hours just to survive them. Now you count them for what you can build within them. Something shifted, not in the arena, not in the guards, not in the walls, but in you. Survival was the goal, and it still is, but not the way it used to be. Not that desperate, teeth-clenched, breath-held kind of survival. Now it's layered. Now it's deliberate. You've stopped asking what they want from you. You've started asking what you want from yourself. What shape do you take, now that the fear doesn't own you completely? What are you building inside this shell of flesh and bruise and memory? It's strange. You were supposed to be broken by this place. And maybe you were, but not into pieces, into something sharper, more precise, something with edges. You start imagining things, dangerous things, not just escape, but impact. What if you stayed long enough to change the rules? What if your survival wasn't an accident, but a message? You begin to speak to others, quietly, indirectly. A nod here, a warning there. You lift someone up instead of stepping over them. Not because you're kind, but because power built alone is fragile. You don't want followers. You want witnesses. People who will one day say, yes, I saw it begin. You still bleed, still bruise, still fall. But every pain now has context. Every hurt is part of the story you're writing, not the one they wrote for you. You look at your reflection in a pool of rainwater and wonder who's really in control now. You used to flinch. Now you stare. You used to ask, will I live? Now you ask, what will I do with the fact that I do? You see others who still fight like ghosts, still moving like they expect to die, and you don't blame them. But you can't go back. You've tasted something sharper than freedom, purpose. and it's addicting. You begin shaping yourself not for applause, but for aftermath. What comes after you win? What comes after you stop bleeding? What comes after your name survives longer than your heartbeat? You don't tell anyone. You don't write it down. But inside you the word takes root. Legacy. Not carved in marble, but in choices. In moments no one sees. In the way you train. In the way you walk past the guard and he looks at you like maybe he's the one in danger now. You're not a hero. You're not pure. You're not saved. But you are awake. And that's enough. You wake up tomorrow and it's still cold. Still brutal. Still unfair. But now it's a forge. And you're the fire. You were born in silence. You grew in fear. But now you build. Not walls. Not weapons. But a shape. A story that no empire can erase. You survived. But you won't just survive anymore. You'll shape. You'll scar. You'll stay. And in the end, when they speak your name, they won't whisper it in pity. They'll whisper in awe. The days stretch on, each one more grueling than the last. But something within you has shifted. The pain is still there, biting at your bones, gnawing at your flesh, but now it fuels you. It sharpens you. You wake up each day not with the hope of escape, but with the understanding that survival is no longer enough. You've moved beyond that. You no longer fight just to breathe. You fight to be something more than a slave, more than an entertainer. You fight to leave behind a legacy, a story written in blood, sweat, and scars. Some days are harder than others. There are moments when you want to fall back into the comfort of your old self. The one who was afraid, the one who accepted that death was just a matter of time. But you refuse. The fire inside you won't let you. You remember the men who've died in the sand, their bodies forgotten the moment they hit the ground. You remember their faces, the way they looked at the world with nothing left to give. You will not end like that. You will not be a shadow in the dust. The guards have begun to notice the change in you. At first, they saw you as just another body, another gladiator to throw into the arena. But now they look at you differently. You see it in their eyes when they pass you, the flicker of uncertainty. They sense it, even if they won't admit it. There's something dangerous about you now. You're no longer just a slave. You're a threat, and that terrifies them. But they won't stop you. Not yet. They don't know how. You've learned their rhythm, their weakness. You know when to move, when to stay still. You've become a shadow in their presence, slipping past unnoticed, but always observing. You've learned their routines, the cracks in their authority. You've seen the fear in their eyes when they realize you're not afraid of them anymore. The other gladiators are starting to look at you differently too. They still fear the fights, the blood, the death. But there's a respect in their gaze now. You've earned it, not through strength, but through survival. You've become something they can't ignore, something they can't predict. And that, more than anything, makes you dangerous. You don't trust them completely. Trust is a currency you no longer have. You've learned that the hard way. But there are moments, fleeting but real, when they don't look at you with hatred or fear. Instead, they look at you with a kind of acknowledgement. They see you as one of their own, as a man who has learned the price of survival. And in those moments, you allow yourself a small victory. You are not alone, not anymore. But the real work has just begun. Surviving this place is no longer enough. You've outlived the others who once held the same dreams of freedom, the same thoughts of escape. But you know deep down that escape is just another illusion. There's no running from this place. There's no walking away, not until it's over. You start to build your own path, step by careful step. You know the system now, the way it works, the way it crumbles when you push it just the right way. You don't need to defeat the empire. You don't need to destroy the system. All you need to do is slip through its cracks. You've seen the way the men with power operate, the ones who control the fights, who sell the blood for entertainment. You know they're not invincible. They've made mistakes, too many of them, and you know how to use that. You start to learn how to manipulate the system, how to use it against itself. You don't need to be the strongest, you don't need to be the fastest, you just need to outthink them. You need to become a part of the system, a piece of the machine, and then break it from the inside out. Days turn to weeks, and still you train. The pain never stops, but it becomes familiar, a part of you, like the breath in your lungs. You learn to fight not just with your body, but with your mind. Every strike is calculated, every move is deliberate. Every glance you cast is a piece of the plan. You've stopped looking at the arena as a place of death. It's a chessboard now. And you are the one who moves the pieces. And then, one day, it happens. The opportunity you've been waiting for, the crack in the system, the one you've been watching for so long, finally reveals itself. It's not grand. It's not obvious. But it's there. A small, fleeting moment where the guards are distracted, where the attention shifts away from you. And in that moment, you know what you have to do. You've spent your life preparing for this. Every bruise, every scar, every sleepless night, it's all led to this. You don't hesitate. You move. The plan unfolds like a prayer, a quiet act of rebellion. The guards don't see it coming. The Empire doesn't see it coming. They don't know that you've already won, that you've been building your escape all along, not with your hands, but with your mind. You've reached the point of no return. There's no going back now. You've taken everything they've thrown at you and turned it into strength. You've learned to play their game, to twist it to your will. And now it's time to walk out of this place, not as a slave, not as a gladiator, but as something more. The gates open. The light spills into the arena, blinding and hot. The roar of the crowd is deafening, but you don't hear it. All you hear is the steady beat of your own heart, the rhythm of your breath. You've won, not because of the fight you've just fought, but because you're still here. You've survived. You've outlasted everything they threw at you, and now you're free. But freedom isn't the end. It's just the beginning. You walk out of the arena not as a broken man, but as a legend. And as you step into the sunlight, you know that the legacy you've built isn't just a story. It's a living, breathing thing. It will never die. It will never be erased. And when they speak your name, they won't whisper it in pity. They will speak it with reverence, with awe, because you are the one who survived, the one who defied the odds, the one who became more than they ever thought possible. And that, my friend, is a legacy no empire can ever. You are not the warrior they expected. You are not the slave they molded you to be. You are the proof that even the most broken soul can rise, can thrive, and can reclaim what was once stolen. They will speak of your name long after you're gone, not as a memory of a fighter, but as a symbol of resilience, a symbol of what it means to fight not just for survival, but for the dignity that no man, no empire can strip from you. You will become the story that the next generation tells not with fear, but with pride. The warriors who follow will look to you for guidance, not as a hero, but as a testament to the strength that lies within when there is nothing left to lose. They will train harder because of you. They will endure longer because of you, and they will remember that at the darkest hour, you were the one who chose not to surrender. And as your name echoes across the arenas, across the dark corners of this empire, you'll know the truth. You were never meant to be a cog in their machine. You were the spark that ignited something greater, something unstoppable. You will no longer be the slave they trained you to be. You are the fire that burns in the hearts of those who follow in your footsteps. Your legacy will not fade into the ashes of the arena. It will rise, it will grow, and it will build something no one can control. Because, in the end, it is not the battles you fight that define you, but the choices you make when everything seems lost, and you have chosen, time and time again, to rise, to stand tall, to carve your name into the stone of history, not as a gladiator, but as the man who refused to be broken. When the last fight is over, when the last drop of blood is spilled, you will still be standing, not as a warrior, not as a slave, but as a force of nature. A legacy built not on the victories of the past, but on the unwavering will to shape a future that is yours to command. And that, my friend, is something no empire, no master, no god can ever take from you.